Fox Soul. Challengers Quan LX and Big Angry Adams. Ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face Off on Fox Soul starts right now.
Who has been, who has interviewed Diddy and has had these connections with people in that music world. She's down there in front of the courthouse right now talking about this turnaround from yesterday. We went to, again, as Antoine said, you had two people on both sides of the aisle here, multiple people in part of the jury saying that they were not going to be persuaded. The judge said, you got to go back, you got to figure this out, and we came back with an answer this morning. So, Lisa, was there anything that surprised you from the results this morning?
Well, I think what was most surprising, Bianca and Antoine, was the speed. They came back today. Yesterday, it seemed intractable. The word was unpersuadable, that they could not be persuaded on that first RICO charge. And then all of a sudden this morning, what most people in the court thought was just another note from the jury about something, mid-morning, it turned out to be, we have a verdict on this one charge, this RICO charge that we did not, that they could not decide on. So that was a pretty quick turnaround. And as one former prosecutor has said, don't underestimate the power of a looming 3-day weekend, holiday weekend ahead. So whether that was the fact or whether they had already gone through so much together, because remember, they're all sitting through nearly 2 months of this testimony and evidence, pretty hard not to have some kind of an idea just on an individual basis of which way they were going. But quite a scene this morning. There's been a big crowd. There's a huge media crowd in front of the courthouse, which has been for most of the trial, especially yesterday and today. And then what is happening now is the judge had asked for a bail package, and also comments from the prosecutors about whether or not they should grant Diddy bail. So he was found not guilty, as you guys were talking about, the RICO charge, the racketeering, which is also called the racketeering conspiracy charge. That was the most serious. He was looking at many.
In this round, here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
So we had a result. America had a result today on the 2-month-long prosecution of Sean Diddy Combs that was centered around a racketeering charge that he would have faced a minimum of 15 and a maximum of life in prison, and then 2 other charges involving the alleged coercion of prostitution that also would have left him facing 15 years to life in prison. And instead, he has been found guilty of the 2 felony counts, but on the punishment scale, much lower punishment range, which is up to 10 years in prison, 2 to 10, and on 2 charges, which the possibility exists that he could be looking at consecutive time. If the judge wanted to, they could stack it to 20 years. It does look like the federal sentencing guidelines with his criminal history would lack thereof, would direct it more to the lower end, and that they would likely run concurrent. And people are talking between 2 and 4 years in prison. I think that we'll see a presentation from the state, from the federal government, from the U.S. Attorney's Office there in New York, that will bring in a lot of things that were not admissible in the initial trial, but become admissible for the sentencing phase, such as the brutal beating of Cassie in a hotel and other allegations that would have been considered irrelevant and prejudicial had they been addressed during this trial. But clearly the prosecutors were aware that there was a significant problem. There are a number of charges abandoned before the case was submitted to the jury by the U.S. Attorney's Office, because they simply realized that they did not meet the elements during their presentation of evidence. People are acting like it's a victory for Diddy, especially his family and supporters, and it most certainly is. I do think that he will emerge from this relatively unscathed. I do think he is, and obviously he will get credit for the time he's already spent in prison, or in jail, in detention, awaiting this trial. I also think that he'll get a bond. These cases, the ones he was convicted of, typically you're entitled to a bond. The federal government has already, the U.S. Attorney's Office has already pushed the narrative that he is a flight risk, but we're talking about an extremely wealthy man that returned to these United States to face these charges. When I mean, there are a lot of people that allege the Def Jam founder Russell Simmons is staying out of the country to avoid his own raft allegations about sexual improprieties. Sean Combs did come and meet these charges head on. A lot of people are acting like he was exonerated. I would disagree. I think what we've seen is that Sean Combs is a pretty awful person who did a whole lot of awful stuff. And we've heard whispers since his early colleague Mace fled oddly at what seemed like the apex of his career to Atlanta to start a career in the 90s as as a pastor, right? We've seen other people in his life, odd things, scary things. We've seen, shooting incidents where other people have stood up.
Charles, how long are you going to continue bringing up salacious innuendo, hypotheticals about incidents he was not charged with, nor was he convicted of, Charles? How long?
Well, I'm talking about what's probably going to be presented
Charles,
at the sentencing thing.
not
I
gonna
get
happen,
it. He's
Charles.
a black man, so
It's not
Quan
gonna happen,
X
Charles.
thinks he's absolutely incapable of doing anything wrong.
This
He's a
is
black
what I
man,
believe.
so Quanell will
This is
find
what I
some
believe.
way to rationalize him standing
went
over a
on
woman
for
and punching him in
7
the face,
minutes.
where the same
gave a
Quanell
7-minute
would
introduction.
condemn white men
You gave a 7-minute
for being
introduction.
born white. But go
You
ahead,
gave a
Quanell.
7-minute
You love to interrupt
introduction,
me,
but you're
please,
afraid of the facts.
Quanell.
You're afraid of the facts. You said on this show from day one, and you called this man a monster.
He is a monster.
On this show for day one.
And he's going to prison.
He would be found guilty. And
He
would
was
be
found guilty
of the serious charges. I also said on the same platform with you, and I told you from day one, they would never convict him for sex trafficking. They would never convict him with the RICO charge, the racketeering charge. I said that's something that they use for mafia bosses, gang members, and crime leaders. There is no criminal enterprise that they would prove that he was running. I also said to you that why do you think all of these people who partied in the sex offs with him, none of them were indicted as co-conspirators or co-defendants, but the jury saw the video you brought up that you claim the prosecutors and U.S. attorneys will now bring during the sentencing phase. That jury saw that video. This presiding judge saw that same video. They heard the testimony of Cassie, and they rejected her testimony. They rejected what she had to say. And that's why he was not convicted on the most serious charges. Now, if we're going to put men in prison for what he was convicted of, paying for prostitution, flying women in across state lines, paying for prostitutions. Well, guess what? Everybody in Hollywood will go to jail. Everybody in athletes in the NFL, the NBA, hockey, boxers, you name it, politicians would all be in jail. But what the jury did not accept and what the jury said is that we will not be persuaded. What they were saying to the judge, you will not intimidate us. We will bring back a verdict that we believe is fair. This is a victory.
That's not what they said.
Diddy Combs.
Do you just lie all the time, Quanell, or just when you're defending an awful person that you happen to share a skin color with?
He was looking at life without parole. Guess what? That's off the table now. The worst he's going to get, no matter what it is, has an exit date. And because he has no criminal history, and because he turned in his passport before he ever was arrested, he turned in his passport and gave it to the U.S. government. Claiming he's a flight risk today is not going to work because it did not work at the beginning. He turned in his passport. P. Diddy did some horrible things as a horrible boyfriend to Cassie. but the jury rejected those who testified in this case to make this man out to be a monster. He did some bad things, yes, but he's not the monster the U.S. Attorney's Office tried to portray him as being. They overcharged. This was overkill, and the jury rejected it. And the proof of that is before they even gave it to a jury to deliberate, they start dropping charges because even the judge knew that the prosecutors had went too far. This case should have never been brought the way it was brought. Now, if they wanted to put him on trial for being a horrible boyfriend, a womanizer, a man beater of a female, he's guilty of all of that. But at the end of the day, that's not what happened here. They put charges against this man, hoping that the hard ones would stick to sensationalize somebody's career. And in the city of New York, I'm not surprised. In New York, I'm not shocked by this prosecution, but the jury stood strong. They rejected that. I think he should receive bail because think about it. He turned in his passport before he ever got arrested. He hasn't done anything whatsoever to make it look like he's a flight risk. Thirdly, the biggest fear to stop him from getting bail in the beginning was he would tamper with witnesses. He would try to intimidate witnesses. Well, guess what? All that's over with now. He can't tamper with no witnesses because that case is over. He should receive bond the same way other affluent white males are currently out on bond right now for paying for prostitution and other worse crimes. Give him a bail, then give him his day back in court, and let this judge decide based on the sentencing guidelines what he deserves. But at the end of the day, he will be coming home.
You notice how I waited till you finished with your spew of
you went on
bile
for 7
and
minutes.
then
I didn't do
started
7
talking
minutes.
because that's
I
how
didn't do
people
7
have
minutes. You did 7 minutes.
conversations. But hey, look, he's interrupting me again. Hey, so well, let's talk about the lies. Initially, you're making it seem like I said he shouldn't be given bail, and when I began this saying he absolutely should be given bail. I don't know if you're having a hard time paying attention, Quanell, but the words that I say matter. But let's go to the judge. You were falsely maligning this judge, and you were saying the jury said something that apparently you just haven't been reading about the case. But in fact, yesterday, the jury, I'm just going to keep talking. The fact is, yesterday, the jury sent out a note saying they were hopelessly deadlocked. And it was instead the judge who said, absolutely not, get back to work. And if you had a greater familiarity with this, the reporter who clearly did, so she made the point that oftentimes a holiday weekend has a huge impact on the negotiations in a courtroom. The jury tried to give up. The jury sent a note saying, hey, we've got people that can't be convinced on either side. There are people that are convinced he's guilty and people that are convinced he's innocent, and they won't move. We're deadlocked. And the judge said, no, keep working. So in a moment ago, when you were making stuff up with your fabulism, I mean, the show is built around, and you were saying the judge did this and the jury did that, but it was absolutely the opposite, right? So
guilty already.
What we have is a judge that sent the jury back to work. The jury went back to work, and maybe it was the fact that they were ready to go home after 2 months, or maybe it was that somebody had an epiphany and agreed. The horse trading that goes on in these jury rooms, which you're not technically allowed to do, right? You're not supposed to say, well, if you'll vote for guilt on this, I'll vote for not guilty on this, and we can go home. But there's a real possibility that sort of horse trading is what led to the conviction on the 2 lesser counts. They are serious counts, right? I know you like to bring in the specter of Whitey. Oh, why all the white men do this? Well, the
white men been holding freak-offs in Hollywood and in the music industry for generations.
Sean Combs
ain't none of them
ran
on trial.
His
you want the world to believe
like a criminal
that Diddy had
enterprise.
all these freak-offs by himself.
And that the truth is there is a tremendous amount of evidence that he was trafficking narcotics for his freak-offs.
And the jury rejected those serious claims.
Coercive and abusive to women. But I will say that I think the only reason that this powerful, rich man who has enjoyed wealth privilege for decades, right, and fame privilege for decades. I know you like to pretend that that everyone is oppressed if they share an immutable characteristic.
No,
but Sean Combs is quite the opposite, right? Sean Combs is someone that has enjoyed getting away with stuff for years and years and years because he was famous and rich, right? And at the end of the day, it all goes back to the government, the federal government, the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York being concerned with the video of him brutally beating Cassie, and there not being consequences for that. That absolutely was the catalyst. Also, I mean, the whole Kid Cudi thing, which I will say the state didn't make their case, right? Did he burn Cudi's car and break into his house?
Had no proof.
Probably.
No proof.
Right. Well, there was proof. There was direct testimony that he broke into Cudi's house.
There was
right?
no proof that
but I will agree.
The jury rejected that.
Well, they withdrew that arson charge before it was submitted to the jury. You really should read stuff.
So you don't think that the U.S. government in New York is embarrassed today?
Oh,
all
absolutely.
of them charges they brought.
And when did I say that? I mean, they lost on the 3 most important counts.
They should be
obviously
embarrassed.
But I don't think their embarrassment matters not to me, right? What I thought we were talking about was what we expect the consequence to be. I would be shocked if he isn't given a bond. I think because he returned to face these charges, he should be entitled to it. I felt like he should have had a bond the whole time. I believe in our Bill of Rights. I will be shocked if he gets more than 4 years in prison on both charges to run concurrent, not consecutive, which means at the same time. I do think there's a number of programs that he will qualify for in the federal sentencing guidelines and in our federal penal system that because of his lack of a criminal history, that I think he will be out in Senate very shortly, do the remainder of his sentence in home confinement. But there is the possibility, right, that they come in there with a wealth of stuff that was not able to be brought in front of the jury for the purposes of the sentencing, and the judge lights him up. We just don't know. I don't know the temperature of this jurist. I don't, he's going to be constrained by the federal sentencing guidelines, which do control sentences far more than like here in Texas, where basically a judge or a jury, if you opt for jury sentencing, which you can't do in the federal system, that he could, they can do whatever they want within the range. That doesn't exist in the federal government.
But based on what we've seen about this judge, it appears this judge is really fair. That this judge is not biased for either side.
You were just maligning the judge.
No, I didn't say that. I was not
Yes,
maligning
you
him.
did.
I said what the jury. I said the jury sent back to him saying we will not be persuaded. But it appears that this judge is fair. Even the Combs family has had nothing bad to say about this judge. So this is what I believe is going to happen. I believe that this judge recognizes, one, that the U.S. Attorney's Office way overcharged P. Diddy in this case. They wasted millions of taxpayers' dollars. This judge also, I believe, will recognize that this man did not participate in freak-offs by himself. And based on some of those factors, why is it this man was put on trial for these freak-offs, sex trafficking, conspiracy, RICO charges by himself? Like there were not other freaks freaking with him with these same prostitutes and male escorts. He wasn't by himself. See, that's what angers the American people. We know that Epstein was a freak. We know Epstein liked young girls. He was a pedophile on his island. But to this very day, nobody who was in those files, who went to the island, who had sex with those girls, have been tried. They put his assistant on trial, put her in prison. But all of these men and some women who freaked on Epstein Island to this very day has not been charged. The American people can see that all of these freaks at the freak-offs with P. Diddy, none of them were charged. The American people are sick and tired of being played by the criminal justice system, that some people are just too big and too powerful to be tried. So P. Diddy should not have been the only one. I've said it from day one. Should not have been the only one sitting up there by himself. And I believe that a lot of the jurors saw Cassie as a co-defendant, a co-conspirator, more so than a victim.
So it wasn't Epstein's assistant. I mean, she grew up very wealthy. She worked with Epstein.
She was his assistant.
She was she worked with him to procure teenage women for him to do horrible things to. And she should be in prison. and
But
she
what about the
is, and
men?
she'll die
What
in
about the
prison.
men who had
Epstein
sex with them young
himself
girls?
died in prison, probably at his own hand,
No, I don't
possibly at
believe
the
that one.
hand of
I believe he was
people that
killed
were
in prison.
worried.
I believe he was
I think
murdered in
there is,
prison.
I think there's very much a legitimate reality or possibility that Epstein had blackmail files and videos and all of these things that likely implicated Democrats and Republicans and powerful figures and heads of state and powerful figures of industry, titans of industry,
And
both in
that's what the
America and
American
abroad.
people are tired of. The
And I
elite
think that,
getting away with crimes that poor people go to jail for every day
well,
in America, that the elite are not prosecuted, but everyday American hardworking citizens, common people, poor people are locked away for the same
I mean,
crimes.
it's interesting you
Elon
bring
Musk,
this up as if Sean
Elon
Combs
Musk.
isn't
No,
a
but Elon
monster.
Musk,
There's
Elon
nothing,
Musk just suggested,
you're just
he just
maligning
hinted a
Musk
week
with,
ago that Trump was involved in the Epstein files. Elon Musk suggested that he had proof that Trump was involved in the Epstein files. Look, man, the American people are fed up with seeing rich people not be even charged with crimes, but everyday people be crucified by the same crimes.
so are
I
you
agree with
drawing
you.
an
I
equivalent
agree with you
between
that P.
Sean
Diddy got
Combs
off
and Epstein?
because of his
Because
wealth.
just a minute ago you were saying Epstein, Sean Combs is this great guy, and it wasn't all.
I never
so-
said he was a great guy. That's a lot to come out your mouth, but that's a common practice with you. I never said he was a great guy. I said he was a horrible boyfriend. He was a horrible boyfriend.
You said he was a
but
bad
he was not guilty
boyfriend.
of those serious criminal charges.
But he wasn't all this other stuff. You don't think he's a monster.
You want
So
to
when you
portray the
say
man
he's
as a
not a
monster,
monster,
he's no
what do
monster.
you mean? You don't mean he's a great guy. You just mean he's a bad boyfriend.
He is not a monster, brother.
What is a bestie?
I like you.
She's fun.
It's about to be a good time.
She's always looking out for you.
Since you're my bestie, I will handle it for you.
She makes you think.
Here to uplift and empower.
She's always encouraging.
You are that girl.
Chelsea Edwards, your bestie in daytime.
I get the spiritual moments.
Chatting with Chelsea. New episodes weekdays at 5:30 or stream anytime on Fox Soul.
Hey, it's your girl, Carolina Sanchez, and The Nightcap is the late night show where no topic is off limits. Join me as we dive into the wild world of relationships, sex, and everything in between. From hilarious dating disasters to steamy secrets, you know we've got it all. We've got celebrity guests, expert advice, and a cocktail in hand. The Nightcap is your guilty pleasure. So grab your drink and tune in because the best stories start after dark.
The Nightcap. New episodes weeknights at 10:30 or stream anytime on Fox Soul.
Ready to lose track of time the best way possible?
Rolling!
From the funniest videos to the wildest things online, we do the scrolling so you don't have to.
It's Usher. He had that synthetic hair melting. You hear me? Why y'all talking about that lady hair like that? Ain't he alone?
Catch us every weeknight, 7 p.m. Central on Fox Soul.
Louder for the people in the back.
Well, on Fox Face-Off, we tell the raw, unadulterated truth.
Fox Soul Face-Off
We are given the platform here with no fear.
always comes out swinging.
We should be saying, hey, stop shooting and killing people.
Nothing held back.
They wanted black hip-hop moguls and artists to continue the feud.
No punches pulled.
And
Shut
neighborhoods
the hell
come
up.
up
You
and
interrupt
let
me all the
speak to my
time.
people.
Tune into the show where opinions collide. Fox Soul Face-Off. New episodes weeknights at 9 or stream anytime on Fox Soul.
I was a quarterback at Hardaway High School. College first-round draft pick. During the football season, I would stop eating. But I didn't know I was depressed. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father and as a husband. We have to redefine what being a strong man is and heal, love your mind.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
I was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text to emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies.
Selfie. Nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on, man, let's put a ride home.
I'm Isaiah Carey, here to shake things up with the stories that hit hard and matter most. Here on The Factor, we cover news with grit and authenticity. We challenge the status quo and get down to real talk and bold discussions. Join us as we amplify the voices that disrupt, inspire, and lead the charge for change. Your story is power, and we're here to unleash it. The Isaiah Factor Uncensored. New episodes weeknights at 9:30 or stream anytime on Fox Soul.
Hey, it's your girl, Carolina Sanchez, and The Nightcap is the late night show where no topic is off limits. Join me as we dive into the wild world of relationships, sex, and everything in between. From hilarious dating disasters to steamy secrets, you know we've got it all. We've got celebrity guests, expert advice, and a cocktail in hand. The Nightcap is your guilty pleasure. So grab your drink and tune in because the best stories start after dark.
The Nightcap. New episodes weeknights at 10:30 or stream anytime on Fox Soul.
That's it for the Face Off on Fox Soul. We'll catch you next time.
I wonder if you know that I want the best for you. But how long will you fight solo? I wonder if you know that we can get help. Not wondering anymore. Love, your mind.
Hey, it's your girl, Carolina Sanchez, and The Nightcap is the late night show where no topic is off limits. Join me as we dive into the wild world of relationships, sex, and everything in between. From hilarious dating disasters to steamy secrets, you know we've got it all. We've got celebrity guests, expert advice, and a cocktail in hand. The Nightcap is your guilty pleasure. So grab your drink and tune in because the best stories start after dark.
The Nightcap. New episodes weeknights at 10:30 or stream anytime on Fox Soul.
Ready to lose track of time the best way possible?
Rolling!
From the funniest videos to the wildest things online, we do the scrolling so you don't have to.
It's Usher. He had that synthetic hair melting. You hear me? Why y'all talking about that lady hair like that? Ain't it alone?
Catch us every weeknight, 7 p.m. Central on Fox Soul.
Louder for the people in the back.
I was a quarterback at Hardaway High School. College first round draft pick. During the football season, I would stop eating. But I didn't know I was depressed. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father and as a husband. We have to redefine what being a strong man is and heal, love your mind.
Well, on Fox Face Off, we tell the raw, unadulterated truth.
Fox Soul Face Off.
We are given the platform here with no fear.
Always comes out swinging.
We should be saying, hey, stop shooting and killing people.
Nothing held back.
They wanted black hip-hop moguls and artists to continue the feud.
No punches pulled.
And shut the hell up.
You interrupt me all the time.
Tune into the show where opinions collide. Fox Soul Face Off. New episodes weeknights at 9 or stream anytime on Fox Soul.
As we work to get through these times together, you may not be thinking about blood donation, but blood is needed to save the lives of people who are sick with a range of illnesses. It's easy and safe to give. If you are in good health, please donate. We need heroes now. Visit redcrossblood.org to schedule an appointment.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies.
Selfie. Nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on, man, let's put a ride home.
Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts right now.
And welcome to The Factor Uncensored. Tonight we're focusing on that big, beautiful bill that President Trump has been pushing and the Senate voted on and passed today. But there's still more work to do. You're looking at possibly tax cuts, also a rising deficit. So what do you want? What do you want out of this package? We talk to our experts tonight here on The Factor. Well, the gang is here. Dr. Branham is here. And also Dr. Von Biedenfeld checking in. Guys, we saw the passage of President Trump's big, beautiful bill today. Dr. Branham, for those who are wondering, what are some of the elements that many of the American citizens out there would care about and how it will personally impact them?
Well, it actually brings a host of